It was a cold February morning in 2012 when Hollow Creek, North Carolina, woke to headlines that would split the town in two. 28-year-old Mark Hensley, a quiet man with grease-stained hands and a reputation for keeping to himself, had just confessed to killing his longtime girlfriend, Sarah Whitmore, a beloved elementary school teacher who vanished 2 weeks earlier. The confession seemed airtight. The police had a body, a motive, and a confession. But what they didn't have was the truth. Mark and Sarah had been together for nearly 6 years. To outsiders, they looked solid, the small-town couple who'd beaten the odds. Sarah, 26, was described by her students as the kind teacher who never raised her voice. Mark, who owned a small auto shop, was hardworking and loyal, if a bit withdrawn. But behind closed doors, the relationship was crumbling. Friends said Sarah had been thinking about leaving. She'd confided in her sister about a new teaching position out of state. And there were rumors, whispers, really, that she'd been spending time with Deputy Ryan Keller, one of the sheriff's department's rising stars. When Sarah didn't show up for work on January 14th, her colleagues immediately reported her missing. Her car was found the next morning, abandoned near a hiking trail, doors unlocked, keys in the ignition, her phone in the passenger seat. 4 days, hundreds of volunteers combed through the woods. Local news camped outside Mark's house, filming his every move. When police finally questioned him, he seemed distant, not panicked, not emotional. That didn't sit well with investigators. Within a week, the tone shifted from search for Sarah to suspect in her disappearance. On February 1st, after nearly 12 hours of interrogation, Mark broke. Detectives said he buried his face in his hands and muttered, "I didn't mean to hurt her." Hours later, police recovered Sarah's body from a shallow grave behind an abandoned cabin, 6 miles from town. It seemed like an open and shut case. Mark confessed, the evidence lined up, and the public demanded justice. But there were cracks in the story that no one wanted to see. The interrogation footage, which later surfaced during an appeal, showed a man who was exhausted, shaking, and disoriented. He'd been questioned for over 14 hours straight, with detectives feeding him details that only the killer would know. Psychologists later described it as a classic coerced confession, a vulnerable man pushed past his breaking point. Still, the physical evidence sealed the deal. Sarah's necklace, found in Mark's toolbox, soil on his boots matching the burial site, and text messages where he'd written, "We need to talk, this can't go on." But here's what no one noticed, the timestamps on those texts didn't line up. And the necklace? It was logged into evidence 2 days before the official discovery date. When the trial began, the defense attorney, Elaine Porter, argued that the confession was a fabrication, that investigators were under pressure to close the case quickly. The town was on edge, the media was relentless, and the sheriff's office needed a conviction to restore faith. But the jury wasn't swayed. Mark Hensley was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Case closed. Or so it seemed. 3 years later, a rookie deputy named Jamie Ruiz transferred to Hollow Creek. One night, while organizing old case files, she noticed something strange, a missing entry in the evidence log. A single item, Sarah's cell phone, was never recorded as recovered. Yet, months after the murder, it had connected briefly to a cell tower near Deputy Ryan Keller's property. Ruiz dug deeper. Keller had since left the sheriff's office and moved 2 counties away. He'd married and started working in private security. But what she found next blew the case open. Sarah's text history revealed a series of deleted messages between her and Keller in the days before her death. In those texts, Sarah told him she planned to tell Mark about their relationship. Keller replied, "Don't. You'll ruin everything." A full review of the case was launched. DNA tests on the shovel found near the burial site, never tested the first time, revealed a partial match. It wasn't Mark's. It was Keller's. When investigators confronted him, Keller denied everything. But a search of his home revealed a photo of him and Sarah, timestamped just 1 day before she vanished. Under pressure, Keller finally cracked, admitting he met Sarah that night. They argued, and she fell, hitting her head on a rock. Panicked, he buried her body and planted evidence at Mark's shop to divert suspicion. When Mark's confession made the news, Keller stayed silent. His silence cost an innocent man 3 years of his life. In 2016, Mark Hensley's conviction was overturned. He walked free, his reputation in ruins, his business gone, and his spirit hollowed. Ryan Keller was sentenced to life without parole. But even after the verdict, the town of Hollow Creek never recovered. To this day, many residents still question how easily the system turned against one of their own, and how close they came to letting the real killer walk away. As Mark once said in a rare interview, "They broke me because they needed someone to blame. And when they realized the truth, it was too late for all of us." The Hollow Creek case became a chilling reminder of how truth can be buried not just by lies but by the desperation to find closure. Justice, it turns out, can be just as fragile as the people it fails.